He's 63, axe handles high, with his feet on the ground and his head in the sky. Hey, Paul Bunyan.
Stories about Paul Bunyan, and little stories about Minnesota lore. You know, Minnesota can be proud that it has Paul Bunyan as one of its great legends of folklore, and they have spread the stories of Paul Bunyan throughout the whole nation, even the world, to talk about Paul and his exploits, and Babe the Blue Ox, and Ole the Big Swede, and Hot Biscuit Slim, and the Giant Pancake Skillet, and lots of other stories. So my story will start with this box here, if you can get a look at it. This is where all the items are. Authentic Paul Bunyan items, by the way. Items handled and used by the man himself. So it all starts in the box, and everyone's pretty curious and interested about what the box might be. And I start the story, and I play a couple of the characters in the Paul Bunyan tales. I play Ole the Big Swede. He was the camp blacksmith, and he tells a story, and I tell the story as Ole the Big Swede, about how Paul Bunyan came to be born, and how he was just a little baby to start off with, same size as when you and I were babies, and how he got to grow so big, and how he got to go so big that after he growed up, he was still a baby for a while. This was his teething ring. Can you imagine that? You can look and see where it's all been chewed and gnawed upon by his great big baby teeth. It sure were something. I also tell this story about how after Paul and got Babe the Blue Ox, they grew up and they decided to go looking for their own place to go logging. And where they went was right here in the upper northwest part of the great state of Minnesota. But they couldn't find the right place. So they walked around for quite some time. Babe had the whole lumber camp strapped to his back, carrying it like a little toy wagon, carrying all the buildings around, pulling it, towing it. And then it started to rain. And it rained harder and harder and harder, and then all the land got muddy, and Babe's hoof prints started sinking down in the mud, and he had to pull them back up, and he left these big holes where his hoof prints were, and because it rained so hard, the rain filled up the holes, and that is how Minnesota got to be known as the land of 10,000 lakes. I bet you didn't know that, did you? It's the truth. Then, another person I talked to is Hot Biscuit Slim. Now, Hot Biscuit Slim, he was the camp cook, and he was kind of an ornery fella because he had to cook for all of the lumberjacks. And one thing that lumberjacks could do well was eat. They were fantastic eaters. So he'd be kind of ornery and he'd be kind of cranky. He'd be talking about how he had to make all these pancakes for all these lumberjacks. And it weren't so much that even of the lumberjacks, he had to cook for Paul Bunyan too. And Paul Bunyan ate 250 pancakes every day, and big thick ones. We're not talking like the little Lego Mago ones. We're talking really big Gigantor ones. So he had to figure out a way, I had to figure out a way to get a huge gigantic pancake skillet, a huge iron skillet. Ole the Big Swede helped me make it. And he got that skillet so we could make all the pancakes at once. It was the most beautiful thing you ever seen. But we had to grease up the skillet. We had to grease up the skillet something fierce. So I went to Paul Bunyan and I asked him for one of his toothpicks. Here it is right here. See that there? That pointy end there. Pointy end over right there. And we took them toothpicks. And we went and we got bacon strapped to our feet. And we took big slabs of butter. And we took the toothpicks, and we started hitting them across the skillet. Back and forth, and back and forth. Hitting with the skillet, hitting across the skillet, getting it all greased up. And before you knew it, we had invented hockey. So if you're a fan of hockey, you have me, Hot Biscuit Slim, and the cooks of Paul Bunyan's logging camp to thank for this great game of hockey. Don't you forget it. Don't let them Canadian North Stars fella tell you they invented it, because they is fibbing. They got no nothing. We'll talk a lot of other stories as well. Talk about Babe the Blue Ox and how Paul found him in a snowstorm and how he grew up to be big and how he pulled up the barn he was sleeping in and started walking around the fields carrying it like a saddle because he'd grown up so big overnight. Lots of tales. Stop it. Stop. I'm sorry, I have to apologize. Shh. Down, boy. My house pet is here, and he's kind of like wanting my attention, so forgive me. No, stop. All right, he wants to see you. All right, come here, boy. He wants to see you. Here he is. Yes, we even have giant mosquitoes. Take a look at him. And there's a story about him as well, isn't there? Yes, there certainly is.
He's 63 axe handles high with his feet on the ground